McGuire was my friend. And he asked me if I would deliver his eulogy. I told him it would be my honor. But I couldn't say it was going to be my pleasure. Considering the circumstances leading up to his request, he understood exactly what I meant. I also told him that I doubted I could do him justice. I haven't changed my mind about that. He asked me to be brief. He knew my writing style, so I will. I told him I'd keep it under 15 minutes. He smiled. What I saw in Charlie was viewed through the eyes of friendship. And this is what those eyes saw. Charlie was a people person. Unless you got on his bad side. And he was still a people person even then. But you wouldn't like it much. But you know, I noticed that whether Charlie's disagreement with someone was small or great, he never disrespected them. Many times I saw him take great pains to not do that. I saw a man who held the natural world close to his heart. An example of that was when he spoke of his home and the country, his horses. His words weren't nearly as informative as the look in his eye and his tone of voice. And he liked Western movies. And that alone is a mark of character. Charlie understood the meaning of a word most people have forgotten is even in the dictionary. Honor. Now, I'm not going to say more about that word. Those who understand it don't need an explanation. Those who don't wouldn't understand the explanation. But Charlie understood it, and he looked for it in others. He bore that word's covenants, and he knew it when he saw it, and he knew it when he didn't see it. Charlie inserted integrity into his words and acts. It did not matter to him if someone agreed or disagreed. With the effect or the consequences of that integrity, it only mattered that it was there. I saw a man from the first time I met him and in all the years after, always met me with a smile, and he never once failed to make me feel invited to be his friend. And Charlie didn't hide his political or socio-political views. We all know that. But you know, sometimes he did hide part of the motivation behind them. The frustration and the sadness about the erosions he saw that were being ignored. In fact, one of his first published essays carried that very theme. When he wrote it, peace was just another guy's opinion. But today, it's an insightful and accurate I told you so. I saw his joy, and he spoke of having mended relationships. And I saw the sorrow, and heard it in his tone when he spoke of those relationships deteriorating again. I watched as his eyes looked past me into the distance, as if watching someone he cared about walk away to see if they look back. I saw a devotion to and a love for his wife rivaling any I've ever seen, an impenetrable devotion, and one he would defend, and could defend, and did defend. I saw a man accustomed to standing on his own 2 feet in every aspect of his life, forced into the reality of dependence on others for even the most basic of physical needs, yet at the same time he spoke more concerned about the stress and heartache he might be causing them, the stress and heartache he was suffering. Twice he said to me, "Larry, there's a lot I've been thinking about lately." I looked right at him when he said it. He didn't elaborate, and I didn't ask. But we both agreed that death is also a part of life, although perhaps not the most appealing part. I saw a man who would not hesitate to point out a shortcoming, but never condescended or belittled because of it. The man seemed to instinctively offer comment intended to help someone improve or understand, when most would just criticize and let it go at that. I was on the receiving end of such comments from time to time, but I'd learned to pay less attention to how he presented something and more attention to what it was he was presenting. And when I did that, I never failed to benefit from his comments, even if I disagreed with him. I saw a man who, once he formed an opinion based on trusted information, wasn't prone to change his mind without some firm convincing, yet he spoke to me of examples of how and why he changed his opinion on more than one occasion. Why did he do that? Why did he tell me those things? Because I asked him. I asked if he'd ever changed his mind, or reversed his viewpoint on something, and he told me. But perhaps the most significant change of mind I saw on a more personal level involved a much more elementary viewpoint. I once said to him, Charlie, you know, sometimes a man can draw to a better hand, and sometimes they just have to play the hand they're dealt. He didn't like that. He didn't want to accept that premise. But, as he indicated to me later, he had to accept the reality of it. All his life, Charlie maintained an inquiring mind. He prided himself in this, and with good reason. Perhaps that's why I saw he was much more distressed at losing the will to do than in losing the ability to do. He told me this himself. I saw in Charlie compassion, strength of conviction, character, honor, integrity, loyalty to himself and to those who deserved it. And he had a broad and inviting sense of humor. And he appreciated the effort it took him to create that humor. Not everybody does that. Charlie respected competence. He respected the strive for excellence, and he was quick to recognize either, no matter what the endeavor. I remember how impressed I was at his woodworking craftsmanship. I had no idea he was so skilled in his creations, or as much a credit to his character as his craftsmanship. He respected those who could do as much as those who did. Sometimes more. But convincing him you could do, or had done, was not always easy. Translated in Charlie's terms, that meant this: if Charlie McGuire respected you, you had earned it. Charlie attributed his ideas and his attitudes that inspired those ideas to those who contributed to his life's experiences. He wrote this in an essay which he completed in August of 1999 and then revisited again in December 2000. He wrote, and I quote, "The secret to the how of living is adapting, compromising, and saying goodbye." Charlie accepted death in the same manner he accepted life, with its shortcomings, its realities, and its resolutions. In his life, and at its end, he adapted, he compromised, and among the very last of his acts was to thank as many people as he could while he was still able for their care and their love and their friendship, and to say goodbye. I could say more about Charlie, most certainly I could, but I think we all could. But he asked me to keep this short. And as I knew Charlie, he also knew me. And that's why I think it would please him if he would hear me say, Charlie McGuire was my friend. I had no complaints.